brought on an education advisor in line with our philosophy and mission that I talked about earlier. The scholastic part of that road is really important. So we're lucky enough to have Tom Mcevay, who flew in to spend the night with you guys tonight and a few days with us as well for people that would like to speak with him personally. Tom Mcevay retired in June 2012 after 34 years in public education in Canada, 25 of those years as a school principal. His extensive background in hockey that included a junior hockey career and a university hockey scholarship. For the past 14 years, he's been an educational advisor for the Alberta Valley Bulldogs in the BCHL Junior A League, one of the top junior leagues in the world. And during the past decade, he's developed a reputation as one of the most knowledgeable people in North America regarding how education and hockey can and should be combined and balanced. Tom is truly the best in the business when it comes to planning your hockey and scholastic goals together in the future. He actually was education advisor when our program director, Paul Esdale, was the head coach and GM in BCHL, the Alberta, and helped countless kids go on to play the NCAA and various college levels from Canadian University to Division III to Division I. So with that, I introduce to you Tom Mcevay.
Like Jim, I feel like I don't need the microphone, but I guess that's part of the gig here because we're going to be recorded. So when you spend 25 years as a principal and prior to that 15 years as a physical education teacher in a gym, you don't need a microphone. But I'll go with the flow. It is an honor to be here tonight and to be part of a panel of people, including Jim, the Positive Coaching Alliance, and our guests from Hockey USA. Clearly, the Wildcats organization are an organization who are attempting and trying and working very hard to do the right things for young people. I notice I didn't say the right things for hockey. Okay? Hockey and sport are a vehicle. They should never be the end goal. They are part of the process of us helping our young men and women, our children, become the best people they can become. The moment we put sport above personal development is the moment we have it wrong. A newsflash. Very few, if any of your children, are going to make a living in the game of hockey. I hope they do. I hope there's one or two. I hope there's one or two or three in this room who possibly get the university scholarship. But that has to come as part of a larger process. If those goals drive it, just as Jim says, if winning is what drives us, we've lost before we started. I hope that in my conversation today, and that's really what we're having, this is a conversation, and I really commend you as parents for choosing to be here tonight, and I commend the Wildcats organization for working to build an organization where, again, they put the best interest of your children and their lives ahead of everything else, because that's what sport should be. You notice the topic of my presentation. I changed this a while ago. I used to call it education hockey. And I realized, in reality, what I'm talking about is life. How many of you hire employees? How many of you are business owners or hire employees in a public situation or whatever? Probably many of you. How many of you want to hire the best people? You can teach them the skills that your organization needs. But character is a lifelong developmental endeavor. And sport can be one of the most powerful vehicles in that process. So that's life. I have information. If you want information, I know that the Wildcat organization, I think, circulated previously some of my information. And like Jim, I'm happy to help and work with individual families. I don't charge for people asking me questions and things like that. If there are people who end up wanting to work with me more in the long term, I'm available to do that. But As a retired school principal, I don't do this because it puts food on my table. I do it because I think it's the right thing to do. I have a passion for the game of hockey and sport, and most importantly, I have a passion for the development of healthy, well-adjusted young people in our communities and in our society. So these are some of the things that I'm going to try and touch on tonight. In a larger seminar or a longer seminar, spend a lot more time on some details, but the reality is here, we have parents, I'm sure. How many of your children are under 8 or under? Okay, it's really important for me to know who my audience is. Okay, 8 or under, large number of you, okay? 10 or under, okay? Or 8 to 10, okay? 10 to 12. 12 to 14. 14 to 16. Over 16. Okay. If I was only talking to an audience of 16, 17-year-old parents, I would spend significantly more time talking about the technical process in education in terms of being able to go on and take your sport to the college or university level. And I'm certainly, again, happy to have that conversation if we have questions individually. And as Ben has pointed out, I am here tomorrow, and if there are people, and I've met with a couple of families already, who would like to spend half an hour with me, I'm available to do that. And who do they see about that, Ben?
They can see any of our program there.
Okay. And so I'm available all day tomorrow. I don't fly out until Tuesday. So if that's something because you really want to take a look at your son's path, where he's at right now, I'm happy to work with you on that, on an educational component. And I mean, that's part of what I do. So I think this is the crutch of what I'm going to talk about. Very much dovetails into what Jim talked about and what Scott and Kevin or others from USA Hockey are talking about with your ADM model. Sport is a powerful development tool, and I'll qualify that, if handled properly. It has to be handled properly. It's like, putting a car in the hands of somebody who doesn't know how to drive. If it's not handled properly, disaster is coming. If it's handled properly, you have a winner. And sport can do that. And hockey is certainly very much, I've seen how that can do it. But hockey is a game. And it's really important that your sons, and if you have daughters that play, understand it is a game, it's not who they are. One of the things I really reinforce always with young people that I'm working with, and often in the work I do with the Bulldogs, I'm working with players between the ages of 17 and 20 who are attempting to get to Bowling Green. I'm wearing this out of honor to my friend Paul. He's a Brown graduate, if you don't know that, one of the top defensemen ever come out of Brown University, very prestigious Ivy League school in the United States in Rhode Island. Any of the athletes that I have worked with, I continue to reinforce with them. Hockey is a game, it's what you do, you're good at it, you love it, you have a passion for it, you have fun. Do not let it define you. You're Tom who plays hockey, not Tom the hockey player. And that may sound like a very subtle difference, but it's so important because the moment an athlete understands that, you become better at that athletic endeavor. Because now, you don't carry the burden of your self-esteem and your self-concept on every shift, on every practice, on every game. You're out there to give it the best you have, to play the game with passion. But if a mistake comes, as Jim has said, we move on. It doesn't defeat us. It doesn't crush us. I'm sure, how many of you have been watching the Olympics the last couple of weeks? Jim asked that earlier. I'm a bit of an Olympic junkie. I've had the great honor of being at the last 3 Olympics. chose not to go to Brazil for a number of reasons this year, but have been glued to the TV set. And I don't watch TV generally very much. Every one of those situations with every one of those athletes, you could tell where they were coming from. And unfortunately, some of them were coming from a place of fear. The fear of losing, rather than the love of playing. And that's, wrestling is my other sport. And I'm going to tell you a couple of wrestling anecdotes possibly tonight if I get time. So I'm watching our Canadian wrestlers, and I don't know if any of you, how many here watch the Olympic wrestling on, it's not the most high profile sport. I come from a small community, Vancouver Island, the west coast of BC, called Port Alberni, 28,000 people. I grew up in Victoria. I was a hockey guy. But our hockey team trained with the wrestlers, and I had a love of wrestling. Possibly connected to the fact that I was a goaltender. Think about it. So I learned that wrestling was an amazingly powerful vehicle. An incredible vehicle in working with young people. We developed quite a high school program in Port Alberni. And I was watching our Canadian wrestler, Erica Weeb, who won the gold medal at 75 kilos. And her message after her match was, I went out today and had fun. Sounds like a crazy thing for an Olympic gold medalist. But she unburdened herself of the fear of losing. She unburdened herself of all the other stuff that goes with ego and goes with the trappings of high-level sports sometimes. She just went out and played, and the results happened. That's what happens when your youngsters, your sons, can take that away from you. Don't burden them with that piece. Let them be defined by who they are, not by what they do. Be the person you can be proud of. I'm going to allude to that many times here today. Coaches. Our USA hockey coaches who coach at the highest levels. Am I wrong when I say coaches want good? They want good players, but first they want good people. NCAA. I work with just about every NCAA team, I think now, of the 60 or so that are there. And I've talked to those coaches many times. And yes, I'm a hockey background, but I'm not the hockey guy, I'm the educational guy. So when they talk to me, there's two things they ask me. Tom, can I get him in my school? Okay, what's he done educationally? But equally, if not more important, is tell me who he is. Because I don't need somebody who's going to be burdened for 4 years. Okay? I need somebody who's going to contribute to a positive, healthy culture. What are employers looking for? Somebody who's going to contribute to a healthy, productive culture in my organization. Sport can do that if handled properly. Have fun. Keep life in balance. Absolutely, that's what it has to be about. If it's not fun, they're not playing at 15. They're certainly not playing by 18. You know, Jim gave you the statistics. How many are leaving organized sport? And those are true statistics. Education, not hockey, is going to be the key to their future. Hockey can help them there. Hockey can help them move forward in their lives and become that person who's going to allow them to be successful. Hockey may even help them get an education. How many have watched the statistics? And again, I know USA Hockey watched this because I know Hockey Canada, who I work a lot, watch this. What's happened to a lot of high-level athletes? Because they allowed the game to define them and not the other way around, for them to understand who they were. And all of a sudden the game's over at a high level, we have a problem. Because they haven't paid attention to what's really important. I'm sure there isn't one parent who wants that for their child. So let's not set them up for that. Let's not set them up for that level of not only disappointment, but difficult trauma in their lives. I have very good friends. I'm 61 years old. So the guys I played junior with and college with have long since retired from the game as athletes. But like each of you, I knew lots of people who played the game, and I played it myself. Very small number are going to make that living. Here's the news flash, you can tell your kids. The beer leagues beckon us all. Sooner or later, that's where we're going to play, if we want to continue playing, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So let's be real. Let's be grounded. Let's let the sport be what it should be. Have fun. Enjoy it. Develop as a person. Pick up those skills that are going to help you later in life. And get an education. And I don't mean that everybody has to get a 4-year college degree. Again, a lot of the junior hockey players I work with, they come to me thinking, yeah, Tom, I guess when I say, what's your goals? And they kind of, they feel obligated to say, well, my goal is to get a hockey scholarship. I go, well, that's great if that's your goal. How are you going to get there? And I know most of these kids fairly well by the time we're having this conversation. And I know some of them are kinesthetic learners. They don't need to sit in an academic classroom for 4 years. It's not who they are. It's not where their attributes and their skill sets are. It's not where their personality is. So why am I setting them up that should be their goal? It may be the goal for this kid, and it may be the goal for that kid. But what I want him to do is have a desire to move forward in his life and get some skills. Everybody's journey is different. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Dream, but remember, Jim touched on this, the process or the journey is what is important. I'm going to tell you about a young man I worked with for 16 years who wrestled in the Beijing Olympic Games, and his journey, and how important understanding the process was to him and his ability to have success in his sport. Turn dreams into goals, goals into plan, and plans into action. Our kids need dreams. Absolutely. If my dream is to go to the Olympic Games or my dream is to play professional hockey, I'm not saying take those away from them. But let's be smart about it. And let's make sure that the process along that route is positive, healthy, fulfilling, challenging, all those things that it should be, because that's really where the meat happens. That's where it really happens. Don't be fooled by ego, glitz, and glamour. Again, I talk to a lot of young kids about various universities, and sometimes I hear, oh, they've got the best dressing room. They've got the best weight room. Oh, I love their jerseys. Okay? Or they have this budget, or they have that. I ask them, do your research. Who are the coaches? Are they people you want to be mentored by? Are they the people you want to work with? Are they the people who are going to truly teach you life lessons? Don't be fooled by the glitz and the glamour. Don't be fooled by other hockey organizations who are going to say we have a better winning percentage, or we have this. Look at what they're doing for kids and what they're doing with kids. That's the barometer that should always dictate us in terms of the decisions we make as parents. Who should be involved with your kids? The best people you can find. But the people who understand that it's the journey and the process. It's understanding that it's not about the game, it's about the kid. And do your research. So, here's a group of 20 or 30 young men. This was a reunion of some junior hockey players. Every one of those kids in that picture had his own journey. Everyone went a way that they were meant to go. Some went to Division I schools. We've got Daniel Moriarty in that picture who went to Harvard and one of Harvard hockey's captains. We got Frank Slabowski, who had a great career at Western Michigan as a goaltender, who's now playing pro in Europe. We've got guys who went to Princeton, guys who went to Michigan, guys who went to University of British Columbia in Canada, who went to Brock University. Some went to small colleges in Alberta to play hockey. And a few of them didn't go on to play hockey. And in fact, my proudest story, I'm proud of every one of those guys, is the guy standing in the back and right in the middle. His name is Tyler Boyce. He billeted with our family. Tyler's now 32 years old. He didn't go on and play college hockey. He knew by the time he was 20 playing junior hockey, that probably wasn't going to be his future. He played 4 years of junior, not all of it positive. And he came to Port Alberni, and I said, so what's the goal? He says, I want to be a fireman. Great, awesome. What are we going to do about it? Well, maybe this year we should be taking a level 3 first aid course. Let's do your truck driving course. Let's get you some work experience at the local fire department. He finished his junior career, went to what we call the Justice Institute in BC, where he had an opportunity to get some firefighting training. He then was offered a job in mine rescue in Kamloops, BC, one of the largest mines there. He's 32 now. He's the youngest general manager in the history of their mine and makes $320,000 a year. It's not the money, I'm just using that as a barometer to get your attention a little bit, because you don't have to be a pro hockey player to do well financially in life. Hockey was great to him. Hockey helped him become the person which gave him those opportunities. Tremendous people person. Why did he evolve through that mind so quickly? Because people liked him. Because they trusted him. Because he had a personality. He was a leader. Sport can do that for you. Sport was good to him. It was a tremendous developmental tool. His journey didn't need to be to college hockey. Not saying some shouldn't. But again, everybody's different. Remember that kinesthetic learner I talked about? Hands-on learner. He sits in a 4-year academic classroom. He's going to die there. Maybe give him an opportunity to go to a small college where he can do some technology courses, construction management, maybe still play hockey at that small college. So my message here is that everybody's journey is different. Our job as parents and coaches is not to determine that journey, it's to support that journey. Allow them to become the person they need to become, that they should become. Don't take away their dreams. I had a dream when I retired 4 years ago as a principal. I don't look like it now. I had a bad winter with a couple of injuries and put on 20 pounds. My goal was to return to my roots, which was climbing and to go on the outdoors. And I decided to go to Mount Everest. There were people in our small town of Port Alberni who see me in a hockey game and say, "Are you nuts?" Because they only knew me as Tom the principal. I said, "No, I'm not. I might be nuts, but I'm not stupid. Stupid we'd be trying to climb to 29,000 feet. I'm 60 years old. My goal is 19,000 feet with my son." That's my 20-year-old son who took a semester off university to join me on that journey. So I had a dream at 60 years old. We all should have dreams that should drive us. Allow our kids to have dreams. Allow them to explore every potential that they possibly have at all ages. When my son said to me, "Dad, what do you think about me taking a semester off university and coming with you to Everest?" Did I say, "No, you should be in school"? No, I almost bawled and said, "You really want to come with me?" And I knew this adventure was going to be a huge part of his development. Became a huge part of our journey. So we set the goals and we made a plan. I don't know everything about U.S. hockey and how it's organized. I've learned over the last few years doing consulting in various places. But whatever those journeys are in hockey, you'll do the research with your son, whether it be through minor hockey club programs, academies, major midget programs, junior B, or down here, tier 3, junior A, major junior, etc., etc. Whatever that journey is, do the research, find what are the best opportunities with the best people. The people who, again, are going to contribute to the development of your son in a positive way. Now, I'm not going to say this is more applicable in Canada, where major junior is a big part of our hockey world. And I'm not anti-major junior or pro-major junior or junior A, etc., but just there are some facts that a lot of people have to understand about major junior and the NCAA in the US. Any young athlete who plays a game or signs an agreement with a major junior team in the eyes of the NCAA is a professional. And it makes them ineligible to play sport, or in that case hockey, at an NCAA school. Probably enough to say about that at this point in time, other than to say if you want more information, absolutely, I'm sure our friends at USA Hockey, and certainly I'm available to have that conversation. With the advent of the USHL and the growth of the USHL in the United States over the last few years, we're seeing less and less American players coming to Canada to play major junior, because they're choosing to stay and play in the United States in a very good league in the USHL and still be eligible for NCAA. We do still see lots of them come up and play junior A in places like Port Alberni, where we have junior A, not major junior. So there is a difference. Again, my presentation is not to give you all of that information, and certainly you're more than happy. I'm happy to help you with that. So after you graduate from high school, what are the journeys? Well, we're just talking to my friends at USA Hockey. Most NCAA hockey players are how old? Almost 20 years old. That's a real important point for parents to understand. So if you want or hope, or your son has that as a desire, to go on and go to college in the United States and play hockey, or in Canada, because it's not very similar now in CIS in Canada, they're very likely not going to go as a true freshman. They're not going to step right out of high school and go and play college hockey. College hockey in the United States and Canada is very much now more of a mature game. Okay? So almost 20 years old, which means they're going to play to 24. So that's the average age. So if you're an 18-year-old coming out of high school, and this is where I do see a lot of parents kind of go, whoa, I never did that. It's very different than a lot of high school sports in the United States, where you leave high school as a football player, a basketball player, and boom, you're going to college. Hockey is a different animal in that respect. This is my point. If that's what happens, if they're going to play junior somewhere, whether it be in the United States or Canada, make sure they're going to play somewhere where they pay attention to what happens during those years. They should not be going somewhere where all they get is play hockey, knowing you got to be at the gym, and wait for practice. And you become very good at playing cards, and very good at gaming, and very good at some things that are not necessarily the things that should be on a resume. Make sure they go, because there are junior hockey programs, both in Canada and the United States, who are doing a good job, and some not so good a job. Would I be right back there, Kevin? That's part of your job, is to work with your son to ensure they go somewhere. So if they're going to play junior hockey at 18 or 19 prior to going on to college, they play somewhere where their development, back up to what I said at the beginning, their development as a human being, their development as a student is attended to. Not where education is put on hold for a couple of years. I talk again to NCAA coaches all the time, and they are very, very open with me and saying, what did that kid do the last 2 years? We know what he did in hockey, but what's he been doing off the ice? Has he picked up any courses? Has he developed himself? Has he been involved in the community? What is he doing? Because what? They want good people, not just good hockey players. And that's an issue in our game, because that gap. It can be an issue that can be extremely critical just for some young people. So be aware. Division 3, of course, in Division 1, there are 60, are we at 60 right now? I think it's 60, might be 61. Arizona now, about that, Division 1. And close to 80 in Division 3. And then, of course, there are Canadian universities. There are American kids coming up and playing in Canadian universities, too. Maybe the small Alberta College League, where you could go to a college that specializes in technical programs and trades programs, would be a better situation than going to University of British Columbia, where I went, which was an academic university, or Harvard, or any other school where the focus is different. Again, it's not their friend's journey, it's not my journey, it's not your journey, theirs. Because the end goal is life. It's their longitude, it's their life. Where's that taking them? So many opportunities, and of course there are some very good club programs at a lot of universities. They may not have varsity hockey programs, but in both Canada and the United States, there are club programs, a little less profile, certainly not the money and the glitz and the glamour. Good academic schools where there's an opportunity to still play hockey and have fun and have it develop your life. So, I say these things because it's so important you have the bigger picture. Too many people, it's, whether it be my goal is professional hockey, or my goal is the NCAA, or whatever it is, and that's all they're focused on, and they're focused on things that are not necessarily going to be proper for their journey. But here's where the rubber hits the pavement. This is the order it should be in terms of your child's responsibilities to his future. Number one, character. Who is he as a human being? How does he conduct his life? How does he treat other people? How does he make a contribution to family, to team, to school, to community? Who is he? That's number one. Coaches want good people, not just good hockey players. Employers want good people. If we don't pay attention to that, we are setting our children up for great hardship. I spent 34 years in public education. I teach at the university now. My focus as an educator was often working with our most high-risk youth. And one of those risk factors is when we don't pay attention to character. We don't pay attention to who they truly should be. Now, if you don't pay attention to the educational side of things, and you can't get into the school who's offering you a hockey scholarship, you're no good to them. So we need to pay attention to the academic piece. Again, making sure it's realistic for where their abilities are, where their aptitudes are, where their interests are. So, again, I could spend an hour here just going through and saying, this is what's required, these are the marks, etc., etc. Let's suffice it to say, when I talk to young people, and when you're talking to your sons or your daughters, the conversation should be, do the very best you can. Don't sell yourself short. So if you're capable of an 80%, look in the mirror if you're not getting it. Because the person looking at you back has got all the answers. That's their responsibility with your support and partnership. Don't be the guy who I've had to work with as a 20-year-old sometimes, who had the 75% when he's quite capable at 85. And all of a sudden, 75 wasn't going to be good enough down the road. I'm not saying wake up and stay awake all night with ulcers if 75 is the best you can do. Don't be worried that I have to get 85% or my life is going to pass me by. No, that's not what I'm advocating. What I'm advocating is to teach our children to do the very best they can. To look in the mirror and be honest with themselves and say, what am I capable of? And go for it. Hockey-wise, USA Hockey Guys, the Wildcat organization, they can help you with that. Be the best player you can be. You're no good to a college hockey coach if you can't play at that level. So you got to be able to play at that level, and these guys can help you with that. So if I had a group of young people here, and you were all players that I was working with, I would ask you to pick one or two characteristics of somebody you admire, and tell me about it. And then I'd say, take a look in the mirror and describe yourself. Are you the person you want to be? Are you the person you should be? Now, what is character? It's those words and many, many others. What are we doing about helping them learn that? Jim went through a lot of that with regards to positive coaching and positive parenting. All those things are so important because we are their partners. You are their role models. You are their mentors. We as coaches, we as people working in this field, we're the ones who have that influence. And many of these things have to be taught. Sometimes we just make assumptions. Well, you should know. Well, why should you know? If that's something you've talked about and modeled all the way along, maybe you should have. But if it's not something you've talked about and modeled, and actually were deliberate as a parent and as a coach in your teaching of that, why would they? And unfortunately, as Jim has said, sometimes we have the hypocrisies of we talk about it and we do something completely different. And then we're annoyed at them when they do something completely different. We just confuse the heck out of them. Because we said one thing, we did another. Very much I believe in this. Life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. How are we, as parents? I'm a parent. I have 2 boys. Now one's 29, one's 24. I take responsibility. I take pride in who they are, but I take responsibility for being a part of that process. And I'm really impressed and I'm hopeful when I see organizations, youth sport organizations like the Wildcats and others, who are paying attention to that. You know, they're recruiting coaches who are believing in that. Because again, if the coach is there saying, you know, respect the officials, and all they hear is denigration of the officials and of their opponents, etc., what's the message? What's the message? So in Canada, as I've made those just a few of the Canadian schools, there's 33 Canadian universities have varsity hockey programs in the men's game. And by the way, if you have some daughters who are playing the game, tremendous opportunities for young women in the game. Tremendous opportunities in both Canada and the United States. Alberta, I mentioned their small college league. BC, club program. NCAA, that number changes. Obviously, some programs dropped, some added, etc., but about 60 men's programs and 35 women's programs, and obviously we're missing one at the bottom. Maybe we should bump that up a bit. But Division 3, again, you may not be familiar with Division 1 and Division 3. Biggest difference, Division 1, some of the schools, not all Division 1 schools, offer athletic scholarships. The Ivy League schools, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Dartmouth, Brown, they do not offer athletic scholarships. So if Harvard comes knocking because your kid's a top academic student and he's a good hockey player, you're going to be talking financial aid. Okay? Because there is no athletic scholarships. Union, 2 years ago, the NCAA Division I champions in the United States do not have athletic hockey scholarships. They have financial aid. But many others do. Many others do. So again, part of the research, part of the reality is to learn what are the opportunities and make sure that that conversation about finances at some point is a realistic conversation with your son. Don't set them up for, you know, I'm expecting mom and dad to fork out $30,000 or $40,000 or more $1,000 a year. Okay? What is realistic within your family? And let them have that dream of pushing forward to get that school who's going to say to them, yes, we're willing to give you 100% full ride scholarship. But the reality is, maybe the top recruits are getting that offer, and then there's a bunch getting 85 or 75% offers, and then there's a bunch getting 50% offers, and then there's a bunch getting 25% offers, and then, Eric, I really like to play this year. We're out of scholarship money for next year, but we'd love you to be at school A. Okay, we really, but you know, for the first year, your parents got to pay the full shot, and maybe you can earn some scholarship money in second year and third year. That is a very much more common conversation than sometimes we hear. Okay? So understand those things. And I'm not saying that to burst anybody's bubble. I'm just saying that because this is going to be that type of honest presentation. Okay, I have no axes to grind, nor do I have any specific programs to promote. I have one thing to promote is, let's do the right thing for our kids. And there are some great opportunities. There are club opportunities in United States hockey. Schools that have non-varsity programs. Not a lot of money associated with them, but there are some athletic awards and academic awards. I've had players that I've worked with who were being offered very small athletic money, but they were a top academic student. We sat down, we did the research. What is that school? I'll give you an example. One young man came out of Alaska, wanted to get to Ohio State. Ohio State had a full roster. They weren't offering lots, so I think he got about a 10 or 20%, maybe $5,000-$10,000. He had a lot of money left to try and pay. So we started researching what academic and character scholarships were available, leadership type scholarships. And he had all those things in spades because he paid attention to character. He'd done all sorts of things with his life academically and his character. He picked up another $33,000 in academic and character-related scholarships. So it's not just about athletics, okay? It's about the big picture. If you're hoping at one point for your son to move towards Division I hockey, you need to be familiar with the fact there's an organization within the NCAA called the NCAA Eligibility Center. It used to be called the Clearinghouse. Now the NCAA Eligibility Center. And it sets minimum academic criteria for an athlete to be able to participate in any athletic endeavor at an NCAA Division I school. And again, I can give you the details of that, but be aware they exist. I call the NCAA Eligibility Center the gatekeeper. They're the one who says to the NCAA coach at School A who really wants you, yes, that athlete will be able to participate. Now, here's the sometimes misconception. Getting through the Eligibility Center does not mean you can play for School A, because you got to get through School A's admissions requirements. So if you haven't paid attention to the academic piece, you've got to get through two things. Okay? Be aware it exists. If you need those details, I'm happy to help you with those type of things, or you can ask. There's lots of good people around. Again, I alluded to, as I kind of draw what we're talking about here to a bit of a close, and I will be available. I know tonight you've got lots of things happening. If there's a couple minutes for questions, but again, if you'd like to spend half an hour with me tomorrow, I'm happy to do that. But here's some things that I have seen be misconceived and have become pitfalls for a lot of young athletes and their families. Those that think, if I'm good enough, they'll get me in. Okay? Doesn't work that way. I'm not saying that the coach is not going to do everything they can do, probably including, pounding on the admissions door and saying, please, please find a way to get this kid in. But the reality is, if you don't have the academic piece for that school, you're not going to get in. Okay? So understand that. Be realistic in your goals and expectations. I've had kids who academically could go into Harvard, but it wouldn't be the right decision. Because they're maybe looking for a school where the academics and the athletics will go hand in hand and balanced. But I can tell you the professors at Harvard don't give a hoot whether you're playing hockey or football. Okay? Unless they happen to be a hockey fan, and that might be the case for one or two. But the reality is, that's a very high level, very demanding academic program, and the sports is going to be very secondary. So often I've said, I don't think that's the right situation for you. You can make that decision. I had a young man who went to Princeton who decommitted after 1 year because he said, no, that's not where I belong. Okay? Now that's a much greater challenge to decommit and make a change. So be realistic in your goals and expectations. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, academic schools. You want to be a carpenter or a plumber, maybe there's some trade schools. And you know what? A lot of those carpenters and plumbers are making way more than the guy who has the 4-year college degree. Okay, I don't know if that's the case in the United States, but I can tell you absolutely for sure that's the case in Canada. Okay? And he's going to be a lot happier because he's doing something much more meant for who he is and what he should be doing. Don't be fooled by the glitz and the glamour. Be a critical thinker. Don't become a disabled hockey player. Remember I said, if you're going to play junior and you're going to be out of high school for a year or two before you go on to college, make sure they're a good 2 or 3 years where this team pays attention, where you're taking some college courses, you're doing some upgrading, you're making sure you're involved in the community, you're becoming the person you should become, all those things. Not sitting around playing cards with the boys. Okay, it can go sideways, ladies and gentlemen, and again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you School A or Junior Program B are the ones that are not doing it. But I can tell you, they're not equal. Okay? The schools are not equal, and the junior programs are not equal. So be a critical thinker. Do your research. Don't wait for them. One of the things I do for our players, and certainly for a lot of my clients, is help them. How do you self-market? How do you make sure that universities know you exist if you're a hockey player in small town Port Alberni, okay, or in California? How do you do that? How do you make that process happen in a positive way? Don't sit around thinking I'm the best hockey player in the world and they're going to find me. Okay? There aren't as many full rides as you hear. Understand the financial realities and know your financial realities as a family and have that conversation with your son when he's 16 or 17 before he gets to the situation, hey Dad, I really want to go to School A, they want me there, and it's going to cost us X number of dollars. And it's not within your family budget to make that happen. Don't put yourself in those situations. Don't put your child in those situations. Have those conversations, really important. Lots of things that we should consider. And again, you have time. In most cases here, we've got a lot of young families or families with young kids. You've got lots of time. I'm hoping maybe 1 or 2 things I've said tonight may just stick, and maybe it's a year from now, maybe it's 5 years from now, you're going, oh yeah, I remember Tom said, you know, but I don't really remember exactly what that is, so I'm going to get a hold of Wildcats organization. Maybe Tom's still around, or maybe there's somebody else who can help me with that. Just know you need to understand some of this stuff. It's not just simple, okay? Why am I playing hockey? If it ain't fun, what are you doing? Okay, we want our children to be happy, well-adjusted. Many, many different questions that we need to pay attention to. And there are questions you need to ask yourself about your interest, or your son needs to ask about his interest, about his learning style, about his ambitions for the future, about your financial realities. So when you dream, and again, nothing I've said today is meant to dissuade you from encouraging your children to have dreams. I'm hoping there have been some things I've said that are going to help you in that journey. Let them have dreams. Help them turn those dreams into goals. Turn those goals into concrete plans. And then help them get out there and do it. Allow them to try and fulfill those dreams. But remember, every step along the way matters. So here's a story I'm going to finish with because I told you earlier. Travis Cross was a young 12-year-old boy in a middle school that I was principal at. He was about 75 pounds and had arms the size of a pencil. He watched the Olympics from Barcelona on the TV in 1992. And he saw a Canadian by the name of Jeff Toohey win a silver medal for Canada in wrestling. And Travis knew that not only was I the principal, but I was also the wrestling coach. So in the hallway one day, Travis, I could feel this tug on my jacket. It's Travis. Hey, Trav, how you doing? Mr. McEvay, did you see Jeff Toohey win the silver medal? Yes, I did, Travis. I know Jeff. He's a great young man. Came out of small town Saskatchewan, lived his dream at the Olympics, wins the silver medal. Isn't that a great story, Jeff? Mr. Mcevay, one day I'm going to go to the Olympic Games. My brain wanted to say, you're 75 pounds, and you're tiny, and you have small little arms, but my heart knew that's not what I'm going to say. My heart said, practice starts Tuesday. 16 years later, ladies and gentlemen, in August of 2008, myself and 65 people from our small town of Port Alberni were in Beijing at the China Olympics to watch Travis cross. Dreams can come true. Dreams can come true if you do the right things and you're the right person. Karma exists. Being a good human being matters. But the story didn't end there. Travis lost to the Turkish wrestler to eliminate him in a 1-1 tiebreaker. Tough wins. And in 2008, the rules were last point in a tie wins. Excuse my language. Shitty rule. But it was the rule. So 65 of us, we are the biggest contingent of supporters for any athlete from anywhere in the world, for any sport in the Olympic Games of 2008. And we're sitting in the stands with our Canadian flags and our tattoos and everything red and white. It's over. 15 minutes later, I get a text. Travis is 28-year-old Olympian. He says, Mr. Mcevay, it's okay to call me Tom. No, Mr. Mcevay, can you meet me in the media area? So I go down through security into the media area, and there's, by now Travis is an 84-kilo monster. 84 kilos, about 182, 184 pounds. You know, arms, he is an impressive physical, athletic specimen. And he comes out with tears streaming down his eyes. We hug. And I said, Travis, I couldn't be proud of you, more proud. That was amazing. That was so close. You actually dominated the match. It just wasn't your game. He said, yeah, kind of sucks, doesn't it? And then he said, you know, I sat down here, kicked the wall a couple of times, had a few feel sorry for myself tears. He said, but I just couldn't help but hear your voice. And I think, oh, poor kid. He's hearing his old principal's voice. He said, yeah, because what have we talked about for the last 16 years, particularly the last 3 or 4 when the Olympic Games became a closer reality, and what he had to commit, and what he had to sacrifice, and what he had to do to get there. And he said, you told me every day, Travis, live the journey. Enjoy the process. And he said, I know as I stand here and as I stood in that dressing room after that heartbreaking loss, that the person I have become, the people I know, the people I love, the people who are important to me in my life, what I've been able to accomplish, the sacrifices I've been made, I own those. That's my journey. That Olympic medal would have been a moment in time. It would have been a nice moment, but it was one moment. It doesn't change the journey. So when you're working with your children, understand that. Every moment counts. The drive home in the car counts. Okay, the conversation at supper counts. The work with their coaches, every one of those moments are critical moments to that child's journey. When I went to Everest, yes, I had a goal. I didn't know this moment was going to happen, where my son and I stood arm in arm and watched from 19,000 feet on the peak of Kalapatar, watching the sunset on the world's highest mountain. Again, encourage your child to enjoy the journey. And I found this little quote that I'll finish off with. Be around the dreamers, the doers, the thinkers, the believers, the people who are up to big and bold things in this life. They are, and the ones that wholeheartedly believe in what you're up to, just as brilliant and beautiful They constantly challenge you to see more, to say more, to feel more, to love more, and to be more. These people are the light bringers. These people are the magic makers. These people are the world shifters. These people are your tribe. And once you've found them, you have the greatest gift that you can ever hope for. I wish you well with your child's journeys. It's a sacred journey. Enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay, as Tom mentioned, he'll be around for the next day or so. If anyone would like to meet with you, you can. We did send out some information directly from the program directors, so you reach out to them, or you can email Paul at wildcatshockey.com directly as well, and you can help you get set up. We will take a 2-minute